Hello, my name is Lisa Pesnichek, and I'm with the Dynamic Self Astrology for Life. And I am here to bring you the astrology for February 2026. Here we are, second month into a year that feels like it's been about a year so far. So it's only been a month, but we're all here and we're here for this, right? So let's jump in. February 2026 has been on my radar, and I think for many astrologers, February 2026 has been on their radar for quite some time. It's a really big month, and you'll see as we move through this, there's a lot really compounded into 1 month's time. January has done its job to rip open weakened parts of our local, our personal, and our global patterns. On the world stage, we have witnessed fracturing of alliances, heavy-handed political maneuvers, as well as further division within the United States specifically. There is a ratcheting down of power and radicalization that is creating a pressure cooker, and it's not sustainable. And that might be the point. Personally, January could have illuminated the areas of your life where you must make serious decisions and even sacrifices in order to move forward with the empowerment that you were born to carry. You may truly sense that it is now or never. If you continue to second guess your intuition or dim your light, then the coming years could be much more challenging for you, and no one wants that. Activation is everywhere. So is the breaking away of what no longer serves us. Letting go is something that has been said so often, especially in the last decade, that it has become trite and superficial. But now, as we shift from January to February 2026, you may have an actual use for this phrase. The material is truly ready to be released, to be sacrificed to the ground as fertilizer for a new dream. Central parts of society and even our personal lives have reached their expiration date. And it is in February specifically that we could see that what has been in the process of disintegration actually disappears. Yes, this can be scary, destabilizing, and even cause hysteria at its most extreme. However, this is how we get to the other side. If there isn't an extreme fracture, then we could hold on to these out of date patterns and states of mind for much too long. Thus, we'd be missing the opportunity in front of us to grow. As Anais Nin so eloquently wrote, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And she continues, life is a process of becoming, a combination of states we have to go through. Where people fail is that they wish to elect a state and remain in it. This is a kind of death. It is time. It's time to do this, friends. So first we start with the Leo full moon. February opens with a bold full moon on the first of the month, situated at 13 degrees Leo with the sun in Aquarius. Again, Mars is quite close to the full moon, as is Venus on the other side. The Mars-Pluto conjunction that occurred on January 27th is still close and could continue to reverberate on the world stage. We have witnessed the heightening of power struggles, immense societal pressure, and even violence under this planetary combination. On the dial, we understand that this full moon is entangled in false narratives, blind beliefs, and possibly the illumination of systematic smoke and mirrors. Leadership is front and center, bolstering themselves with hopeful hubris as the world unravels around us all. This is not to say that humanity is in the midst of a Hollywood end. That's not really how life works. Human life has to operate within the realm of Saturn, which includes time and space and structural bones, obeying the rules of gravity. Yes, there are moments in time that change everything, but the density of reality absorbs a lot of these impacts and dampens their overall capacity to change everything in that moment. Human life is very, very stubborn. Leo is the sign of the leader, the sign of the king, It is possible that we could continue to see the leadership of nations around the world to fall, such as in Venezuela and in Iran, or to reorient themselves altogether in order for a new chapter, a new life to begin. On the personal level, this is a great time to evaluate if you are being pulled into the density of activities that are unfolding. It doesn't matter what side of the story you're on. Both are largely navigating within the density, within the karmic pull of earthly life. And I encourage you to become more clear and more diligent about what you are fighting for, and to have an understanding and even a compassion for what others are fighting for as well. Every story has multiple perspectives. And if we are to avoid this density that we can get stuck in, then we cannot get stuck in just one narrative. Everyone is being pulled in by something absolutely legitimate. Everybody. However, if the goal in this lifetime is to become lighter and more light filled, then stepping into this dense battlefield may not be the best option. Be honest with yourself and follow your heart. Lots of love to everyone through this process. It's not an easy one. An additional piece with this full moon is that it ushers in us into eclipse season. So 2 weeks from this full moon, we will have the first of the two eclipses, which will happen over the next month. And we will feel the pull of eclipse season several days to a week after this Leo full moon. So, I mean, honestly, it could just start right away, but we'll see how that happens. And I say that partially because the next transit that we're going to take a look at is Uranus stationing direct, which takes place on February 3rd. So, right after this, we step into this really crazy energy, which we've already been feeling for about a week prior. So, as I record this, we've already been steeped in this Uranus that's very still and very potent. So it makes its final station in the sign of Taurus, where it has been since 2018. And it stations direct at 27 degrees Taurus, 27 minutes. And yeah, it's frozen in place. It's potent, it's big, it's loud. So think back to 2018 and reflect on how Uranus and Taurus has stirred up and reset your life. What houses is Taurus in? Hence, which part of your life has Uranus been stimulating? Look at the planets or angles that you have at fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, to see how your life has been jolted into new form by Uranus. Taurus is a very fixed sign, so having Uranus there has really stirred up parts of our life that we hold tight to and that we are not very willing to just throw out into the ring and say, change it. So this has actually, for a lot of people who have really strong fixed energy specifically, has created a lot of upheaval potentially in their lives. But on the mundane field, Uranus and Taurus has disrupted the financial markets, primarily with the uprising of cryptocurrency. And it has also notably put a wrench in most goods and products in those industries with COVID first, and now with the rise in tariffs. Uranus will make its decisive entrance into Gemini April 25th, 2026, and will journey through Gemini until 2032. In the sign of Gemini, Uranus finds a reckless soulmate, both being archetypes of curiosity, of intelligence, quick pivoting, and are quite open to chaos. We can expect the pace of life to drastically increase once this ingress occurs. But first, we will honor the final messages and lessons that Uranus and Taurus has to show us. Take care of your nervous system this first week in February, as a Uranus station can be both invigorating and also overstimulating. So on January 26th, Neptune made its final jump into Aries from Pisces. And on February 13th, Saturn will join its current teammate, who's Neptune. And the two of them, Saturn and Neptune, they have some important work to do in the sign of Aries. Saturn spends about 2.5 years in a sign and has been in Pisces since 2023, where it has helped Neptune to stir up how we relate to topics such as compassion, interconnection, tolerance, and even escapism. Saturn in Pisces solidified our dreams and may have also shown us the consequences of our actions and how we have made those far out journeys. Our imaginations may have been more activated as the planet of manifestation stirred the deep oceanic waters of Pisces. Take a look at your charts to see where Pisces is situated in your chart, what house or houses it's in, and if you have any planets or angles there. Saturn in Aries makes us more impatient, expecting immediate results. Saturn doesn't do well in Aries because its archetype is one of long term plans and sustained outcomes. On the contrary, Aries is oriented towards fast and furious actions, taking chances and short term goals. There's increased aggravation when these two energies are combined, and the long term goals that we are accustomed to planning for are less reliable. Remember to take deep breaths if you find yourself being triggered by the compulsiveness around you. This is not a chill Saturn expression. And take a look at your Aries house as well and what's going on with Aries, as well as the cardinal signs Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. When Saturn changes signs, just like any of these slower moving planets changing signs, it's always a noticeable event. And the main event with this Saturn is soon to come with its conjunction to Neptune. But first, we have a solar eclipse. So why don't we just slip one in here between Saturn moving into Aries and the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune? Why don't we just have a solar eclipse in between? So that's what we're doing. We have a solar eclipse in Aquarius, and it takes place on February 17th at 7:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and is situated at 28 degrees Aquarius, 49 minutes. Welcome to eclipse season. Have officially arrived as this eclipse takes place on February the 17th. And as if the transits that are occurring aren't big and eventful enough, you might as well make it all happen during the most energetically and potent and tenuous time, which is eclipse season. So this is the first eclipse season that we have had in the sign of Aquarius since 2017, 2018. At this point, the lunar nodes are still on the Virgo Pisces axis, and they will change onto the Leo Aquarius axis in July of 2026. However, this time the nodes are in a reversed position from where they were at in 2017, 2018. The south node will now be in Leo and the north node will be in Aquarius. So think back to 2017, 2018, and what topics were highlighted for you at that time. But what is really more important about this solar eclipse is that it's situated in a very close square to a very, very slow and powerful Uranus, which we just spoke to. So the possibility of sudden events, revolutionary movements, and unconventional momentum is all on the table. In fact, regardless of what way you look at the solar eclipse, and I tried to pull it apart in a whole bunch of different ways to see what else was happening, really this alignment to Uranus is the main and only event that is happening. Interestingly, this eclipse aligns with President Trump's chart in a prominent way and highlights the last couple of years of fun and excitement that Uranus has had with his chart, being both conjunct his MC and square to his Mars in ascendant. Example of Uranus's work in his chart includes the attempted assassination in 2024, which in some ways led to him being elected US president that same year and then wreaking havoc on the US government and the country in general throughout 2025. We can expect that this eclipse could set him into unhinged and unpredictable motion, which has been his status quo most prominently in his second term. So I always advise people to set aside time for them to regulate and recenter during eclipse season. Life can be more unpredictable than usual and can kick up unforeseen material. Make sure that your schedule is lean so you can take care of yourself, especially the days preceding the eclipse and into the first week of March when the second eclipse of this series will occur. Be kind and compassionate with one another as we navigate what will surely be a tense and trying time for humans. So, our next stop is Saturn conjunct Neptune. And we have been talking about this transit for a long time, I feel. There has been so much anticipation and apprehension and all the feels about this conjunction. Saturn conjunct Neptune happens approximately every 37 years. So each of us in our lifetime will only get a couple of them. The last time that it happened was throughout 1989 when they met up three times during that year. And that was when the Berlin Wall fell. So this time, the two planets have hovered very close to one another for the past year and came very close over the summer of 2025, so last summer, and will finally complete their planetary conjunction on February 20th, which is the day that we're speaking to now. So there's so much anticipation surrounding this transit. And a huge part of the emotional excitement is because it's occurring at 0 degrees Aries in 45 minutes. That probably means absolutely nothing to nearly all of you. And that's to be expected. But for astrologers out there, this planetary reset is taking place on what was arguably the most sensitive point of the zodiac, which is called the Aries point or the world point, which is 0 degrees Aries and the beginning of the zodiacal degrees, as well as the spring equinox point. So it's very important. This means that the disintegration that has been such a buzzword, the breaking down, the falling apart that is happening, it's happening on a world scale. No nation or part of the world is exempt from the influence of this transit. What this transit is essentially saying is that it is time to start over, to shed and compost what no longer serves us, and for real this time. No fluffy talk, no beating around the bush, no negotiations. It's time. So the events that unfold surrounding this conjunction are ironically both very dense and incredibly light. And I'm talking a lot about this density because it just feels really potent right now. So we're given a choice, not just this day, but 6 to 12 months on either side of this conjunction before and after to either hold on to the dense edge of this rushing river, which represents that which we know and which has also expired and doesn't serve us any longer, and risk getting it torn apart by the torrent, or to trust the flow of the rushing river, which represents the future, the great unknown, the moving forward, and to let ourselves be carried where we need to go. There is a plan. There is always a plan. And we have a choice on how we will respond when the plan is presented to us. Do we trust it? Do we not trust it? And it's understandable if we don't. It's a scary process. I'm finding myself feeling a little on edge about it as well. So you're not alone. Density is not our friend right now, though. And I'm working through this as well. Yet it's so enticing because we know it. How can we lighten our energetic load to let in the change that is beckoning us? The more that we fight both it and one another, the more challenged this journey into the future will be. No, I don't know what the future entails, but all I know is that we have to take the leap in order to find out. Next on the list is Mercury stations retrograde. And why not throw in a Mercury retrograde at this point? We have everything else going on. So Mercury stations retrograde on February 25th at 22 degrees Pisces and 35 minutes and will retrograde until March 20th, where it will station direct at 8 degrees Pisces and 29 minutes. Mercury is not straightforward in Pisces. It is the sign of both its detriment and its fall, meaning that for this 4-week time frame, our means of communication, even transportation, could be erratic, unreliable, and frustrating. This Mercury in Pisces reminds me of how omens or communication with the liminal realm is revealed. Important information is communicated in symbols and poetry and colors and whispers, dreams and or metaphors. While there is truth in what lies within these murky messages, there is room for each of us to make our own interpretation. Exact delineation is not needed. Trust and intuition are the core principles of navigation with Mercury in Pisces. Mercury prefers to operate on facts, figures, and tight margins. But Mercury in Pisces has to be creative in how it deals with information from the distorted bottom of the sea. The Mercury retrograde begins with a parallel to Neptune and a conjunction to Venus, indicating that we could find ourselves interested in or focused on poetry, the arts, and such. Mercury in Pisces alignment to Neptune can also indicate deception through words, twisting the truth, or plain out lies. The most intense aspect that Mercury will make during this retrograde is a conjunction and also parallel, so they're super connected with Mars as it stations direct, indicating that there could be consequences to the muddled wordplay that takes place at the beginning of the retrograde cycle. In a month when the activity is quickening and there's a focus on falling away and destabilization, this can be the last nail in the coffin. There is already plenty of confusion and muddying waters without the Mercury retrograde. The Mercury retrograde is sure to be felt in the collective. So keep your eyes out for communication gone wrong and transportation mishaps, that sort of thing. Back up what you can. If you're traveling at the end of the month and throughout March, create mental and emotional endurance in case things get mixed up. Be sure to double check your emails and other correspondences. There's a likelihood that your message gets either lost in the mail or misinterpreted. That said, intuitions will be high at this time. This is a great time to deepen into your psychic abilities if that's something that interests you. Connect with your higher knowing for orientation if you start to feel lost and confused. Check and see what planets or angles you have in the sign of Pisces, which you already did for Saturn, which we spoke to before. But now this is looking at the Mercury retrograde and what's going to be impacted with that, as well as the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces. And if you have anything in those signs, it's basically going from end to end of Pisces for the most part, then you'll feel this. Okay. Our final stop on this tour of a jam-packed February is Mars square Uranus, and we couldn't leave this one out. Mars square Uranus occurs on February 27th at 27 degrees and 42 minutes with Mars in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. We will feel the impact of this transit. I feel pretty certain of that. There could be a final blow for whatever occurred around this Aquarius solar eclipse, which occurred about a week earlier. As I stated with the Aquarius solar eclipse, this is tying very personally into President Trump's natal chart. And this is important because he's the leader of the United States, the current world power. So whatever happens in his chart, especially in the places where it's hitting his chart, everybody's going to feel it to some degree. There are big things happening for President Trump throughout February, but especially the last couple weeks. It's notable that Trump tends to respond well, at least for him, to Mars and Uranus. It aligns with his own energetic makeup. So we could see him taking unusual steps to carry out his agenda. If he felt he has been slighted, he could fight back in a way that feels out of the blue and that inspires a revolutionary response. Something is likely to happen around this time that sends the already tenuous political climate into some sort of a tailspin or disruption. And remember that we are still in eclipse season, so the gravitational pull is a bit loosened, and fate will have its hands on the steering wheel a bit more decisively. This will not be a chill time. Will be a time filled with sudden events, controversial actions, and calls for new status quo. even if that is through destructive means. Whatever breaks in these last weeks of February, they're not going to go back to their respective place. The reconciliation will likely be found after an arduous journey through the rubble that is left in its wake. This can mean many things and can take many different forms. So if we think we know what it means, we probably don't. Well, much of the astrology for this month is not easy. It's not, and could be answering your fears in an unwelcomed way. It is what we all signed up for. When we stepped into this human form, we signed up for this moment right now. How will you show up for this moment in human history? So in closing, move slowly this month. Move with mindfulness. Move with intention. Move with your breath and move with your highest knowing. Every movement is a prayer. When the density of the events begins to stick to you and you become consumed by anger and fear, find a way to shake yourself free. Travel with as much lightness and brightness as you can muster. Remember that life is not a black and white experience. It is a myriad of shades, textures, and angles. When we succumb to the black and white perspective of we are right and they are wrong, then we become heavy and fearful and angry and blocked in perceiving how we are all beautifully connected to one another and with Source, with God, whatever you call it. This is nothing to be ashamed of, this dance of fear and anger. It's really not. It's part of the human orientation. But this time is calling us to trust more into living beyond that stickiness and that blockage. So take notice and adjust yourself as many times as you need to. No problem. The invitation is to be curious with ourselves and with one another and to not get stuck in the anger, to help out those who need it, and to also take care of ourselves. We cannot go backwards. The only way out is through. Lots of love to all of you. You all mean so much to me, truly. I will see you next month. In March, we'll have actual context to what February is bringing up, but we'll still be in eclipse season. So that's okay. We've got this. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.